All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Brand Motoring live stream here on the Matt Brand Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend here. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'm happy to be back after missing last week here being sick, but feeling better here this weekend, and I hope you guys are all doing well too. So, like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. If you would also like a priority answering, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, I see we have a bunch of people already hanging out in here and gifting memberships even. Thanks so much, Brian, for gifting those memberships. And yeah, I also see Ford Enthusiast been a member for 3 months now. Thanks so much, Ford Enthusiast. He says, happy holidays, everyone. I agree. Hope everyone's having a good holiday season here so far. Here in Pittsburgh, we had some snow unexpectedly yesterday, and so we're having the actual white Christmas kind of thing going. Hopefully the snow will stay on the ground until Christmas Day, but we might even have some snow on Christmas Eve. So anytime it's not very often we get a white Christmas here in Pittsburgh. So when it happens, it's always pretty special. So I'm excited about that. But so let me see here. Brian says he was trying to gift memberships to specific people, I think, which unfortunately you can't do. I wish that YouTube let people do that, but it seems like it's completely random who gets the memberships, unfortunately. So sorry about that, Brian. But yeah, now you know for the future. But thanks so much for gifting the memberships. I'm sure the two people that got it are very excited about getting it as well. And Justin, thank you so much for being a member for 28 months now. He says, hope the holiday season treats you well. I wish we got some snow here in Columbus, Ohio. Bummer. I'm surprised. I thought like Columbus, I guess you guys aren't close enough to the lake to get some of that lake effect stuff that like Cleveland and other areas get, I guess. But anyway, hopefully you get a little bit, maybe it surprises you. Because like even with our stuff on Saturday, like they were all saying there's gonna be like flurries and like nothing. It's like 3 to 4 inches we got. It's hilarious. I hope that my daughter's generation lives to see the day where they can actually predict the forecast and the weather, because it's like we're getting into the year 2025 here and we still can't figure out when we're actually going to have weather. It's insane to me. But anyway, let me see here. Getting into the other, all the member questions here. So I just want to welcome, Brian, Kevin, and who else here? Kyle, Cars, Linda, Danny, Michelle. So many people joining in here. So yeah, thanks so much, Truck Car Guy, Mr. 705. And let me see, everyone else just wishing everyone Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays here. And Brian says, saw a black Stinger last week, criminally underrated car. I totally agree. Yeah, it's always fun seeing a Stinger. They're such great cars. And let me see. I see Danny's here as well. Thanks for stopping by, Danny. He says, hello, everyone. And Matt, my interesting spots in New Jersey happened on the same day. First one was a Rolls-Royce Wraith convertible, and the second one was a Subaru Crosstrek plug-in hybrid. Both of those are pretty rare. Yeah, it's awesome. And thanks for stopping by, Danny. Hopefully, maybe you get a gifted membership here. But again, you'll continue to be an honorary member here. And Michelle saying hello from California. Hopefully the weather's a little warmer there. I see Danny says he's freezing in New Jersey though. Brian says this gifting membership system is broken. It gives it to random people on the internet, not on the stream. Yeah, I wish it at least gave it to people who were present in the live stream. I mean, maybe they are and they're just not commenting. I don't know, but yeah, it's always kind of a strange choice for YouTube to just give it to, I guess people are on a wait list or something. I have no clue how it works. And YouTube doesn't give us any info either. So it's just like completely random. I wish there was more control for sure. And Danny says windchill's making it feel like 12. And Mr. 705 says it's cold in Ontario as well, I'm sure. And Vishal, thanks so much for being a member for 8 months now. He says, in your Atlas vid, the brake pedal position was interesting. Never realized the brake pedal was like that in my Jetta or my Passat before. Yeah, so I guess it's just a general Volkswagen thing. I don't know, because I feel like I've been in other Volkswagens and it hasn't been like that. So I'm curious if your Jetta actually does have that raised brake pedal, because the GLI didn't. I mean, maybe because it was a manual. The GLI was fine. Golf R, I don't remember having an issue with that. Don't remember having an issue with GTI. It was just the Atlas and maybe the other crossovers. Maybe I complained about it in my Tiguan review many years ago. I don't remember. But yeah, it's bizarre. I don't understand how it's comfortable. I mean, I guess you could use to anything, but Yeah, maybe I've just weak shin muscles, but my shins were on fire driving that Atlas. 'Cause it's just not, I mean, you have to like flex so much with your ankle there to get up high enough to hit the brake pedal. It's just strange. You gotta, or you, I guess, use your whole leg and, shift everything around so much. It's just crazy. But anyway, let me see here. So where were we? I'm always losing my place here. So a car says, I live in an area with a great variety of cars. Recently saw a 2002 Subaru Outback H6 sedan. Didn't remember Outback sedan existed. Yeah, the SUS, the Sport Utility Sedan, they called it. And a few El Caminos, Suzuki X90, a Geo Metro, and another Geo Tracker. Nice. It's amazing there's that many of those things on the road still. That's nuts. St. Anthony's trying to stay warm too. 11 degrees in New Jersey. Yeah, it was pretty cold here too. I think it's 19 right now. So not a fun time to be outside. And Luke says, I saw a vehicle the other day that I completely forgot about and think it should come back. The Mazda 5, part wagon, van, and crossover. Yeah, those are awesome. And for a brief period, you could even get it with a manual, which is also just so bonkers. But yeah, I always thought the Mazda 5 was a cool little idea, and it's a shame that they didn't sell better. And I see someone else has been a member for 29 months, but their message has been retracted. I'm not sure who that was. I didn't catch it in time, but thanks whoever you are for being a member for 29 months. I really appreciate it. And let me see. Dylan says, how's it going? Things are going well. Nicholas, thanks for stopping by too. Yeah, everything's going well. Just enjoying the Christmas time. It's really fun with the little kids. So makes it much more magical and brings back all that fun, we remember as kids. Spy Harpy says Tesla Model 3 performance owner since mid last year was a Toyota dealer recently and saw a new Camry, sat in it and freaked out. Too many buttons and dials, look too complicated. Damn Tesla minimalist interior. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's and this is so fun. This is what all the other car companies tried to copy. They tried to like do that same thing because it saves so much money. It's not having any of those buttons. They're like, oh, well, Tesla can get away with it, so we can too. And then every single car company that's ditched buttons, all they get is a bunch of people complaining about it. And now they're adding buttons back in, like Hyundai is starting to add them back in. And it's like, it's funny because, yeah, a lot of Tesla owners really like that. But, you try and transplant that out of the Tesla fandom and it just doesn't work. It's really funny. So I'm glad you've gotten used to it and you enjoy it, and shows there could be hope, I guess, for an all touchscreen kind of interface, but just seems like most people still are not into it. Raphael says Cleveland got some love. I have some snow for sure. Nice. That's awesome. Glad you're getting some snow up there. I figured hopefully it's not too much because I know even Erie and Buffalo got hammered a few weekends ago, but anyway, Jordan says your automotive predictions for 2025, products, partnerships, tech advancements, etc. I mean, I'm gonna need a little bit more time to like give a good answer, but I think first, off the bat kind of things. I mean, I just heard in the past few days that maybe the Nissan Honda thing's not actually happening, so I don't know what to believe with that anymore. But I think Nissan has said they have 12 to 14 months. So I think something's going to happen in 2025 with Nissan. It's going to be sink or swim with them, and we'll just have to see. So I think definitely that's one thing, it's going to happen, but I'm not sure which way it's going to go or who they're going to partner up with. As far as other partnerships, products, tech advancements, I don't know. It's 2025 to me is the hardest year ever to predict, for all the reasons of all the change we're going to have here in America supposedly, and how things are going to be just very unpredictable in a lot of ways. So I honestly, I'm not even going to try and predict for 2025 at this point because it's going to really depend on a lot of stuff. I mean, car companies could either be in a really bad position depending on how policies are implemented and what tariffs are enacted and which ones aren't. We could see, half of the auto industry crumble, especially the American brands, badly if, Chinese cars are allowed to come into the country, or if, there's other things that happen to, create loopholes or, whatever. I mean, so it's entirely up to policy as far as, honestly, that holds the fate of a lot of these car companies. Some people have said it won't be so bad, and we went through this in the 70s and the 80s, and everyone survives still, and that's true. But these car companies are not in the same strong position they were in the 70s and the 80s to weather the blows that they weathered, from the Japanese brands, hammering the Americans in the 70s. That was whenever they had, monopolies, and it was the big three pretty much. And they were all just printing money, and, they could afford to take the hit. Now, they're already struggling to compete. And then try and make it that much harder. It's just, smaller and smaller slices of a pie. And you can only slice it so thinly before, you got nothing left. So, it's going to be a crazy year, I think, and there's been others in the industry that have said this is going to be a year of consolidation. And I think that could be something you see is, maybe instead of companies completely going out of business, they merge, and we have more mergers. And I think you could see Stellantis pick up, a few more brands possibly, or do something to try and, beef up their whole situation as well. I mean, or they could sell stuff off too, it could go either way as far as that goes. But yeah, it's interesting. Someone actually mentioned, and I thought this was a fun idea, that Stellantis could pick up Mitsubishi at least, and possibly even Nissan as well. But Mitsubishi could be a fun one to add to Stellantis's fleet of stuff. Then you have like the Daimler Chrysler stuff, and the whole partnership with Mitsubishi kind of be revitalized again. Could be kind of fun. But yeah, I'm for the first time in a while, I'm not even going to try and predict, because this is going to be too hard of a year to predict. There's just so many unknowns and so many variables that are on the table that were never on the table before, that are like actual things being talked about. So, I'm not even going to try. It's going to be too hard to predict. It'll be a fun thing to watch unfold, though. Sit back with your popcorn and see what happens. But Austin says, hey, Matt, do you think there is going to be a big enough spot in the market for the new Prelude? Speaking of, smaller and smaller slices of the pie. I don't know about Prelude. I mean, Honda's whole thing as far as why they got rid of Civic Coupe was because no one was buying them. And then it was like, basically either that was a lie and they actually just wanted to do Prelude, because that kind of makes sense timing wise, that like Civic Coupe dropped out in what, 2018 or 2019, because 2020 model year, I think, is, or something around there, 2020. That time period is, when they bailed on that idea. And, if you again have most car companies say it takes, 5 to 8 years of product planning to, get to an actual finished product, this means the Prelude decision might have actually been made back in 2020, right? Or whenever they were dropping that, Civic Coupe. And so if that's the case, then that could be, kind of their thinking there was like, okay, we can't justify this as a regular Civic Coupe anymore. So we got to bring another name out, bring some nostalgia into it, give it something a little bit more unique, and then have something that'll maybe sell better than a Civic Coupe would. I don't know. But, it's going to be tough, because not only is there not a big enough spot for a two-door anyway, since it's just such a small amount of people are interested in that thing, just of a two-door vehicle. And then you're going to have Celica probably coming onto the scene soon too to compete as well. Maybe those two will revitalize the segment and bring people in from other, segments possibly. That's my hope. And I think that's probably the car company's hope as well, is that, instead of trying to slice the existing pie of demand here, we instead get new people and bring them back in. Maybe people who missed, Civic Coupe and are in a Civic sedan right now or in something else. And you say, hey, look, there's a new Prelude. All of a sudden they dump their Civics or something, go back to Prelude, maybe. I don't know. Same thing, Celica. I'm sure you're going to get some nostalgia buys, but how many? Because again, everyone still these days, likes the practicality. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. It's a very brave move, especially again in a world where everyone is bleeding money and everyone is really struggling. It's brave of them. So I commend them for that, and I respect them, and I'm happy to see it. It's almost the same thing as like the Mazda inline six turbo. It's like, in this day and age, how do you approve an inline six turbo engine? But somehow they made it happen in a tiny company like Mazda too. So it's just another one of those things where I'm rooting for it. I'm happy to see it, but I don't know how, that those things get approved and then all these other awesome ideas don't, it's kind of funny, but Sorry, Sean, I missed your super chat there. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Matt, talk me out of trading my TC for a Cooper S. The 17 plus models are actually really reliable. Just wish the Clubman still came available as a coupe. Yeah, that would have been cool to see a Clubman coupe. I'm just sad the Clubman's going away in general. But so it's interesting you said 17 plus because, you know, Cooper S, that generation, it came out in 16, right? For at least the hard tops. So I'm curious why you're saying 17, maybe just first model year. Because that's also something I keep an eye on every once in a while, is a fun little like, well, maybe like if I needed to pick something up that was cheap, that would be the move for me too. Because I agree, they are very reliable. So, so I'm not any help here. I'm not going to probably be able to talk you out of it. You know, if I was in a TC and I had the money to upgrade to, you know, the current gen Cooper S, I'd probably do that as well. So I'm sorry. You know, there are caveats. I would say, you know, if you're going to go for one, I would recommend trying to get one that's certified pre-owned, just because, you know, it's an electrical thing that you have to worry about. You know, with any European vehicle, they're sometimes over-engineered and have, you know, error messages and things like that. So, you know, I would try and either locate a non-mini dealer that actually works on minis that maybe is a little cheaper than going to the dealer, or try and get some kind of extended warranty just for the electrical stuff. Mechanically, yeah, you're right. The, you know, B48 or whatever, nothing to worry about there. Everything, you know, powertrain wise should be solid, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have various, you know, lights come on for no reason. You know, various other little glitches. You know, that iDrive system in there, you know, could be problematic down the road. There's other things that I'd like to have a warranty for, you know, beyond just powertrain stuff. But it also depends on how long you're planning to keep it for. But that's probably, you know, something that I would, you know, look at. And that'd be the only thing I would say to discourage you is, you know, if we were talking about a 2017 or newer Camry, I wouldn't even mention any kind of extended warranty, you know. So there's that, and just be prepared. You're going to have some more expensive maintenance, and some, you know, more expensive repairs eventually, you know, for other things. But that's really it. And again, those things wouldn't dissuade me from getting one either. So you know, I think it's not a bad buy. But sorry to not be any help there. And I also see you say it's 75 here in SoCal. Boo, man. That's nice. Must be very nice. And he said, I accidentally erased my free my free message. Do I get a prize of 36 months of membership? I don't think there's any prizes, unfortunately, but but yeah, if you yeah, I can figure something out. You maybe a discount code on merch or something like that. But yeah, no, I don't think there's any. It'd be fun if there was like a way to do like prizes from YouTube, you know, in the membership thing. That's a good idea. Maybe they should like implement that at some point. But no, I mean, definitely let me know, Sean, if there's anything you have in mind. I'd be more than happy to give you a little prize for 3 years of membership. I really appreciate the support all that time. And Fook, thanks so much as well for being a member for 19 months. He says, are you going to do a year-end recap video or stream topic for next week? What's your most and least favorite car you have reviewed this year? I will save that question for my final weekly update. I'm going to do my last weekly update of the year, unless there's some crazy car news I have to cover. The weekly update is just going to be my wrap up on the year. And so I will do my top 10 list of my favorite stuff that I reviewed this year, like I always do. So I'll be doing that and answering that question there. And I will be doing a live stream next Saturday. I won't be doing one on Sunday because I'll be hanging with friends on Sunday, but Saturday will be the last live stream of the year. So just a heads up for those of you who like watching these, will not be Saturday or Sunday. It'll be Saturday instead. So, but yeah, thanks so much, Fook, for being a member for 19 months. And you'll find out soon what my least, I guess, most favorite reviews are of the year. I guess least favorite I can answer, so I'm not going to probably talk about that in the video. I'm trying to think what the least favorite one is. I'd have to like pull up a list of everything I reviewed this year and try and think. I don't know. I think one of the most boring, underwhelming ones for me was the new Subaru Forester, but that was pretty predictable. There wasn't anything like surprising. It was just like, yep, this is as bland as I expected it to be. So maybe that. I don't know. There's maybe one or two others. Anything that I had a negative title in the video for. Those are going to probably be the top contenders. But yeah, that's probably one of the top ones there. Subaru is one of the more consistently disappointing companies for me recently. So any Subaru is usually a pretty decent bet. I mean, the WRXs, they're not priced well for the high end ones these days, but I mean, they are fun at least. So I can't say that I disliked reviewing them. It's just that, again, just not the value and it once was for those higher ones. But anyway, Raphael, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, can you tell Beth we all said Merry Christmas? She doesn't have to join the stream, but we still wish her the best. I appreciate that, Raphael. We'll definitely say that to her here. And no promises, but possibly next Saturday she'll come on for the live. We'll see. We just briefly talked about it here before I came on that maybe she can join here for the last one of the year. So stay tuned for that if you can. But thank you so much, Raphael, though, for the kind super chat there, and hope you're doing well too. And let me see here. Other member questions. Where were we? Luke says, my Eruption Green 25 Maverick Lariat is starting to be built January 6th. Well, congrats on that. And yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about it once you get it. And I see B. Mitchell says his spot of the week, which made his month, was a Cybertruck sideways in the ditch on I-94 west of MSP. All vehicles are created equally on ice. That is true, but you don't even need ice to disable a Cybertruck because it sounds like they're getting stuck in some very mild snow that, yeah, that's usually a tire thing, right? So I think Cybertruck tires are just not very good in any kind of weather. But it is satisfying to hear and see all those things, especially whenever the drivers are macho people that think that they bought some doomsday, vehicle that's capable of anything. And then it's like, oh no, you're getting stuck in stuff while someone in a cross trek just rolls on by you. But anyway, I see Scott also says, Matt, I love your videos. I feel your pain about your bullet. I have one. Hopefully you can get another one at some point. I hope so too. Thanks so much, Scott, for that. And I hope you're enjoying your bullet as well. They are fantastic cars, and I still miss mine a lot. Truck Car Guy says, quite the climate change from Phoenix to Pennsylvania. That is certain. Yeah. I mean, in Phoenix 2 weeks ago, and it was, I guess maybe 3 weeks ago now. Anyway, yeah. Definitely coming back to Pennsylvania was a little bit of a switch. It was definitely a little chilly here, but I like having the 4 seasons, so I'm not complaining. Raphael says, this week was a yellow Supra going past me in 2 inches of snow. Still pretty cool. Wow, that's impressive because I thought Supras were terrible in the snow because even in the dry, they like to kick the back end out. So I can't imagine. I guess on snow tires, they can be okay, but they just have such wide tires in the back. But that's awesome. I'm glad to see someone out in the snow in a Supra. That is really, really cool. Good spot. Mr. 705 says, my gift subscription was given on the only night I wasn't watching live. Interesting. Yeah, YouTube is strange. Michelle says, maybe I'll check both cars again when I get home and let you know. Yeah, I'll be curious to hear about the brake thing. Dylan says, I didn't see anything rare, but I did see something I thought was funny, a BMW X3 with Civic Si badging and a vanity plate saying confused. Interesting. People are funny. That is a choice. And I see 2 random car questions here. Danny's asking, what are your thoughts on 2020 or 2012 Audi Q5 hybrid? Never think of buying one, but just want an opinion. I didn't know a Q5 hybrid existed back then. And I actually worked at an Audi dealer right towards, I guess 2011 was my last year, but I didn't know there was a Q5 hybrid. I'll have to look into that. So you have stumped me, Danny. That's impressive. Thanks for the info on that. I'll have to check that out. And Matthew says, I'm shopping for an S4/M340i, but S4 used is going for around 8,000 less. Is it worth it to spend the extra for the M340i? So if you watched my reviews, I just this past year actually, or maybe, it was this year, I did the M340i finally and an S4 of this generation used. And I kind of talked about this a little bit in my M340i video. So if you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out, because at the end, I kind of talk about the fact that you can get an S4 for a little cheaper. It's going to come down to your personal preference. M340i sounds better. It does drive slightly more sporty. And, other things like styling and interior stuff is going to come down to personal preference. If it were my money, no, I would not spend $8,000 more for an M340i. The exhaust is sweet, but not $8,000 sweet. So personally, I'd go S4 if that's the price delta, unless you got the extra money to burn and you're not worried about it. But if you are, trying to find a value, I think S4 is really good. I don't think M340i is $8,000 better. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And yeah, great question. Both are fun cars for sure. If Vishal says being here outside of San Francisco is very interesting to see a lot of Toyota Mirais on the road. That is interesting. I obviously never see any around here, but I do see them when I'm out west for sure, and it's always cool to see. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate it. Happy to see a bunch of people able to get those there, and yeah, I always appreciate the generosity, Kyle. So thanks so much. And let me see. Jacob says, hi, Matt, rooting for you to get another Mustang in the future. I had a race red Mustang EcoBoost that I bought new in 2017, but sold in 2021. Finally picking up a used 21 GT next week. So excited. That's awesome. Congrats on the incoming GT there. And I think you're going to love it. And also, I think it's a great buy to pick up, an S550, because I think, with S650s being so expensive, the S550 is such a good value these days. And so great to see you're able to grab one. Hope it treats you well and have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, hopefully there'll be another one in my future someday. We'll see. Trent Car Guy says, interesting spot of the week was a Fiero at a local gas station. Nice. That's also impressive. I mean, I guess again, Arizona, you don't have to worry about weather, but that's cool. Someone's out driving a Fiero in December. And Austin says, hey, Matt, what's your opinion on all the negative press for the new Charger EV? I'm really interested if the 6-pack version will address most of those criticisms. Well, I mean, obviously you probably saw my review on the Charger EV. I thought it was great. Not perfect. I didn't like the way it drove on track. I wish it had shifting, and I think that there's still some little tweaks that can be made to make it a little bit better. I think, trying to think how I word this. I think there are sometimes YouTubers that know what the sentiment's going to be in the public, and some people try to play to that. They know what people want to hear. I mean, look at the news. If you tell people what they want to hear, it's going to be popular. So I think that some I mean, I think a lot of people genuinely just drove it, and it's not like they were lying. They just actually didn't like it, and that's their honest opinion. And that's the great thing about car reviews, is everyone has different opinions, different viewpoints, different things they highlight. It's great to get different opinions on stuff, like anything. Anything in life, any purchase especially, you want to get multiple opinions, and so it's great. It's great to have the diversity of opinions, for sure. But I think that with this car being so loaded, from the get-go, it's kind of, it behooves people to kind of play into that a little bit more, to feed people the yeah, you were right, man. Like, this thing sucks, like that is a profitable tactic. And so I think there was some of that. I think, again, there are some people that didn't like it. I talked to the Throttle House guys. They were standing right next to me, and we were, chatting and stuff. And, they're like, oh, I don't like how the track mode limits the throttle. And I'm like, yeah, I'm guessing they're just trying to, preserve the performance on track there and smooth things over, but they didn't like that. And that's their opinion. I personally didn't mind it, and it's just an option. You can choose other modes, but, they thought track mode means you should have everything 100%. And that should be, it's that simple, to them. And I can respect that. I disagree, but, so there's those types of things where I don't blame anyone for having, differences of opinion. But I think that, the deliberate pandering to the haters is the stuff that I sometimes roll my eyes at. I think as far as 6-pack version, I mean, it will help a little bit, because it's just varying levels of open-mindedness as far as the Charger goes. If you have people that have no problem with an electric Charger, they're open-minded enough to be like, this is cool, this is new, this is different, I'm going for it. And I've seen, there were a few commenters of people being like, I'm excited to buy one of these. There are, in fact, people that are excited about them, and will buy the electric one. And then, you'll have other people that are like, well, I'm the EV thing is a bridge too far, but yes, I am open to something gas powered, even if it's not a V8. I will still be excited about this, and I'll go buy an inline six version. And you will get a little bit more of those people, coming off the sidelines little by little. But at least online, the chorus that's overwhelmingly, allowed is just saying we want a V8. And I mean, this is a problem Dodge created, for themselves. Unfortunately, they pinned themselves and put themselves in a corner. And when your entire audience is used to one type of thing and you try and do something different, it's tough. As a YouTuber, I'm well aware, you give people certain types of content and then you try and do something different. It's tough. My channel is the same way. This channel is blown up on V8 everything and, loud, crazy, obnoxious stuff. Trying to get people to watch an EV review is tough. I'm in the same shoes that Dodge is in. So, but with Charger, it's just going to be a matter of time of, seeing how the EV1 performs out in the wild, and, people seeing them at the drag strip, losing to them at the drag strip. Some of those things will slowly change perception for some people little by little. I think the 6-pack version will help some people. I think once we get the 6-pack version in the hands of the aftermarket, and, the aftermarket, I don't remember. I actually asked the Dodge CEO at the event if the Charger gas ECU is going to be locked. He didn't give me an answer. So I don't know, but I think the consensus was, eventually people will do stuff, but I think they just want everyone to go through the dealer and use the upgrade packs, at the dealer, and go through all that stuff. But I'm assuming the aftermarket will crack it at some point. And when they do, that motor already, I think that 6-pack motor, I think there's a crate version that's already almost 1,000 horsepower or something that they showed off at SEMA. I mean, it's going to be an incredible motor. And so they're going to have the people that maybe are coming from like Supra crowd or something like that. They're like, ooh, new inline six, let's play around with this. And we'll show what it can do. And again, you'll get some people that are a little more open-minded and say, okay, it doesn't have the V8 sound, but this is an awesome motor. It's a cool looking car. I'll go for it. And you little by little slowly win people over. And then you will always just have the V8 holdouts that'll say no V8, no care. And, it's never going to happen for them. And I think that's going to be a large chunk of the Mopar group. But I think they will conquest new people. I think people that have, been wanting a cool two-door fast electric thing, that maybe we're waiting for a Tesla Roadster, or we're waiting for, anyone else to do a cool, two-door EV, and no one basically has. Here you go. I think there's probably more of those people out there than people realize, and they are the type of people that have the money to spend on that kind of thing. So I think that there will be, some adoption, but it's going to be tough, but the negative press thing, I think I'm so jaded at this point. I just roll my eyes at it and, move on, because it's just, something that it's just the internet these days. People have to get mad about everything. So, I just expect it on anything. So for this, it's a little more than usual, but doesn't phase me, and it doesn't seem to phase Dodge either. They're like, we see it, we know full well, but we're forging a new path, and they're very confident that this is still going to work out for them. So we'll see what happens. But let me see here. Other questions. Want to make sure I didn't miss any supers or anything. So where were we here? So Sean's talking about the memberships here, and Ford Enthusiast says, reading on some Facebook groups about issues with Ford products like Mach-E, Escape, Bronco Sport, and Explorer. What is a Ford Enthusiast to do? Get a Subaru, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai? I mean, if you're worried about reliability and stuff, it's anyone that I talk to, friends, family, whatever. If they are just the type of person that just wants reliable transportation from point A to point B, I'm always like, just get a Toyota or a Honda. It's a recommendation that usually is not going to blow up in my face if I tell someone to get a car and it ends up being like terrible for them. Like, usually it's a safe recommendation, and it's just this safe picks. Subaru, I don't love, they still have issues with their engines and their transmissions, and once you get to higher mileage, they're just less, they're not competitive to me. In just every segment they compete in, pretty much they're not competitive, unless there's, like really no competitors, like again, base WRX, which these days is 37 grand. I just buy a used GR Corolla Had to get the Gio Corolla mention in every every live stream. But there's like no world where I recommend a Subaru anymore to anyone. Just every segment, there's a better option in my opinion. But yeah, Hyundai is great too. There's still some issues though with engines and stuff out there. So that's one. If you keep it within the warranty period, great. Otherwise, I don't think that's one I would try and do several 100,000 miles in. But Toyota and Honda, absolutely. Brian says, is CES replacing auto shows? With the exception of SEMA, it seems CES is now the central automotive reveal show. Yeah, it's weird. So CES for several years now, that's been kind of the talk, is that like, well, with everything going to be electric and everything so high tech, like CES is the logical place for like all of these EVs and stuff. Now, obviously the EV rollout's kind of slowing down. So, excuse me, but maybe we'll see a little bit less of, the CES hype for cars, going forward for a few years here. But the strange thing is like there's CES and then there is the Detroit Auto Show again in January. And I was expecting car companies to be like, okay, we got a January show again. Let's go back. Because I always assumed some of that was just because there was no January show. They wanted to show stuff at the beginning of the year and they just dumped it at CES instead. But I think it sounds like I haven't heard, and I was even talking to my other journalist friends in the past couple of weeks here. I'm like, has anyone heard anything about Detroit? Is anyone doing anything for Detroit? Is there, and like everyone's like no invites, no word, no rumors. Like, I don't know if Detroit's going to be a ghost town this year. I don't even know if they're going to have a media day because as far as I know, there is nothing at Detroit, which is sad because I was excited. I was like considering going just because of the nostalgia of like, oh, like I'm actually, call me crazy, but I was excited to like go to Detroit and freeze my butt off, going out and filming, catching the bus every day and going into the auto show there and filming the cars. And I always enjoyed that trudge into Detroit every January, and I missed it for the past few years here. And I was really planning on going back, and then there was no invites from any car companies. There's no info. It sounds like no one's doing anything. I've been even slowly starting to like, hear stuff about Chicago in February, but it's like everyone's skipping over Detroit, and it's a bummer. So I don't know what's gonna happen with Detroit. But anyway, CES, yeah, seems like that is still gonna be the place for some of this stuff. But honestly, I've only heard of the Honda thing at CES here this year so far. I don't know if there's gonna be any more, but I think some companies might be cooling off on CES a little bit too, because again, just the electric hype's not there currently as much. And Sean says the whole point of the Honda Prelude was always to introduce new technology and features. It'd be cool if this trend is continued with a sporty but economical coupe. Yeah, and it sounds like it's going to introduce that new Sport Plus, shifting stuff, which, is cool but isn't really revolutionary or anything. It'd be cool if they were bringing some impressive new technology, like, I don't know, four-wheel steering back into Hondas or something like that. Some heritage things like that would be cool, but it sounds like, it's just going to be a very high MPG, hopefully fun to drive, coupe, and we'll see. I'm trying to keep an open mind with Prelude, but it's, hard to not be pessimistic about it, I think, because it's just, Honda is very safe and, they don't really take too many risks. Although this car is a risk, it's just like, I wish we would have taken a risk with the powertrain a little bit more, or done something a little more experimental, something a little new, instead of just copy and pasting a powertrain, which sounds like that's what they're doing. But, and Sean's saying minis in general, as far as, being really reliable. Gotcha. Okay. And Austin says 2014 was the start of F56 generation for Mini. Okay. So it was even earlier. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah. And then was 16 convertible then? I'm a little foggy on my years for that, but yeah, I think it was, that whole generation seems to be pretty solid from what I've seen. I'm tempted some days to go back and get one of those as well, because it'd be a fun little run around. And Sean says, well, my kid wants my TC when she gets her license in about 4 years. Okay, so you got a little bit of time then to enjoy the TC a little bit more, but that's cool. And Y Haas says, I'm at an impasse. I want something reliable, but I also love V8s, especially American Muscle. I am leaning towards a Mustang GT, but any other recommendations? I mean, especially later model years, all the American muscle cars are pretty reliable. They all have proven engines, proven everything, mechanically, all the tech's proven. There's really, I mean, I remember, I think the first year or two of Hellcats, there was some clutch issues and a few other little issues. So I'd say Dodge, maybe, especially the earlier ones, you might have some more issues. So that would be like the least reliable one, but even that's pretty reliable compared to, other stuff. So, but yeah, I have heard, it sounds like the Mustang GT, that Coyote motor is the one that does really hold up for the long haul. People are doing, several 100,000 miles in those things, no problem. Really solid motors. So that would be, yeah, honestly, I think the GT is probably my recommendation. Again, I'm a little biased, obviously loving Mustangs, but Camaros, that V8 is great too. And those seem to be pretty solid and reliable as well. And they seem like they're not really depreciating much anymore either. So maybe the Mustang's a little bit cheaper these days. So that would probably make it a better value. But yeah, Challenger could be a solid buy as well. I mean, you got the ZF8 speed automatic. If you go for an automatic one, those are going to be, pretty bulletproof and all that. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong, honestly, but they're all, if you're going for an American muscle thing, they're all going to be good. Well, Haas says, by the way, it's negative 18 Celsius, negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit here, so you can't complain. Man, yeah, you definitely have it worse there. So hope you're keeping warm. But Mr. 705 says, what's your biggest 2014 video or 2024 video fail, Matt? Probably, I think the Kia Sorento is the biggest fail. I think that's at like, I don't know, 2,500 views or something for the Sorento plug-in hybrid. And there's one recently that bombed pretty bad too. Yeah, there's been some that have definitely been, usually Kia, the Carnival did well, but other than that, every other Kia I review consistently, like Hyundais are sometimes fine, but Kia, almost every single time I do a Kia, like no views, which is a shame because I think actually Kia is a really good company. They make some really good stuff, but just, I don't know what it is about Kia, but like the general audience out there doesn't enjoy Kia reviews from me. So if you search for those are probably going to be the lowest view counts there. So those are going to be the ones. Now, as far as from a like-dislike ratio, it's safe to say that my video about everyone overreacting about the Jag stuff with Jaguar a couple of weeks ago, that was my most disliked video of the year by a long shot, and probably my most disliked video this decade. So, and I knew that going into it, that was a contrarian kind of thing. I just, had to get off my chest and thought it was fun to just, repost that little snippet from the live stream here. And so I didn't lose any sleep over that one, but that is definitely the most disliked video of the year. B. Mitchell says, actually, it's an arrogant owner thing as I tiptoed by on the glaze with the F-150 and two-wheel drive. Well, there you go. But I think it's also, driver skill makes a big difference if you know what you're doing out there as well. But that's pretty funny. You must have had a really big grin on your face, B. Mitchell, driving past the Cybertruck while you're in two-wheel drive and your F-150. That's golden. Oh, man. Thanks for sharing. Let me see. Snarkle says, I've had an SS1LE for 4 years. Is it worth trading in for a new non-Z51 Corvette? Is there that much of a difference in driving on normal roads, comfort, etc.? That's a good question. I mean, I think if you are used to the firmness and the sportiness of the 1LE, being in a non-Z51 Corvette might feel too soft to you. I don't know how badly you want the mid-engine thing and stuff. I mean, obviously it's going to feel sportier because of the setup, but I don't know. I think if you're, to me, a jump from a 1LE to a non-Z51 Corvette's too big of a jump downwards from a handling standpoint. Corvette, with a C8 here, it's a whole different beast, especially obviously, different engine placement and stuff compared to the Camaro, but the Corvette, is a little more understeery with this C8. They try to tune, especially the base Corvettes, to be a little safer and, just not get people in trouble as much for especially new people that aren't used to mid-engine vehicles and how to drive them. I mean, especially, I don't know if you do any track driving. If you do, I would say, you you're going to be missing the Z51 stuff and the Corvette on track, coming out of a 1LE. So, I'll say Corvette will probably be more comfortable. And it's a better vehicle in a lot of other ways for sure, but you may miss the rawness of the Camaro and you'll miss the handling, I think, a little bit. So I would hold out for a Z51, at least just to give you, similar handling kit. I would definitely, I don't know how hard it is to test drive one. If you can find like a used non Z51 C8 somewhere, used, hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to test drive, especially if you're rolling up in an SS1LE that's, worth some good money still. Hopefully someone will let you take one for a drive, see what you think. Because I'd be worried that you'd be just feeling like it's a downgrade in the handling department. Obviously lower center of gravity, more exotic, but yeah, I think you should try and test drive one if you can. Let me see. Raphael says, a friend that used to work for me moved his family to Germany and just sent me pics of his new Audi RS4. I'm jealous. Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it's be fun to get all those fun European vehicles. It's always fun when I go, like I was in Italy, back in April, and seeing all the awesome stuff that Europeans get. It definitely makes me jealous. And Jordan, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, does Lexus still do their iconic Christmas commercials? Husband surprises his wife with a new Lexus topped with a huge red bow. I think so. I haven't seen any this year myself, I don't think, but I'm sure they must continue that. That's something they could never stop doing, I think. So I'm sure that they still are doing it. Maybe someone else can weigh in on that though. But let me see. Thank you so much, Jordan, for the super chat as well. Let me see. Dylan says, I'll say I'm pretty stoked for the 6-pack Charger. That's good. Yeah, I'm glad to see people are excited about it. Again, it's just so hard to judge based on internet commenters. It really comes down to sales figures and supposedly, like, Charger in general. I will say, when we were out in the public driving those things around, everyone was positive. Everyone thought it was cool. Everyone was checking it out, asking us what it was, all this kind of stuff. And even like the Dodge employees were like, yeah, we've put thousands of miles on these things. And like everyone, when they see it in person, they love it. They actually are really into it. So it's one of those things that, I think there's a lot of negative sentiment online, but that often doesn't reflect reality. So we'll see what happens. But let me see. Chris Plummer says Amiras are depreciating faster than Avoras. New Amira with 410 miles for 90 grand. Some GT still over 90. Should Amira owners worry? Are we in for 60 grand V6 Lotus vehicles soon? I'm surprised they're depreciating. I hadn't heard that. I don't know. I mean, my instinct on Amira is that as Cayman goes away here in 2025, which is happening, it's going away, and we don't even know if the electric one's going to be coming until, a year or two later. So they might actually have a gap where 911 is the only sports car they sell for a year or two. But, I think you're going to have people. Obviously, there's a huge amount of used Caymans out there for people to always go just buy a used Cayman if they want. But I think that you will see demand for Amiras stay strong if Lotus continues to build them into 2030 or whatever, like they're now saying they will potentially. I think that could kind of carry the torch for the gas Cayman fans that are sad they can't get a new gas Cayman anymore. Maybe they go buy a new gas Amira. That doesn't help people for the used market stuff, but at least if you start getting some of the Porsche crowd coming over and spending Porsche money, then hopefully, that will support those used values. And I guess you could at least hope for used values to be as strong as Caymans. I haven't looked at Caymans to see if that is a helpful thing or not, as far as I don't know how fast Caymans depreciate these days, but I think you're going to get a lot of Porsche fans that are like, Porsche's screwing up in their opinion. I'm going over to Lotus and getting myself a mid-engined, little sports car with a manual still, by the way, too. So, I mean, I think that Porsche, fans will help out the Amira cause in the long term over the next, 5 years here. But there still might be a hit here in the next year or two, but I can't envision that lasting, especially with Amira being one of the last ones standing with, a gas engine, a manual. Um, I think that that's going to have a huge appeal. So I think that that is definitely going to have a promising future, hopefully. And if you're an owner of one, I would say definitely hold on to it if you're trying to maximize, your investment. I think this is probably not the best time to sell, because I think there will be, Porsche buyers that start to feel the squeeze and want to, get something new and go to the Lotuses, or newer. But and Nicholas says, "Hey Matt, which current sports car would you have as a second car?" That depends on my budget. Yeah, I don't have any budget for anything. So if we're talking what I could actually afford, that would be nothing. But if, um, I mean, my favorite sports cars, as I've said in the past, I really love Miatas. I love the GR86, GR Corolla. If I wanted like a sportier, sports car, it's not an actual two-door sports car, but that's another favorite for sure. And also, just a public service announcement. Just as I usually do, in every few weeks, I check pricing for GR Corollas. They are dropping. I think that's another vehicle where like people are not into GR Corollas anymore or something. I saw some like non-salvage title GR Corollas this past week for like 32 to 34 grand. Um, and that's getting even sweeter of a deal now. That's like, and we're not talking high miles, we're talking like under 15,000 miles. And I know a lot of people are, pissy about the warranty and claiming you can't go over 85 in them and all this crap, which is so overblown and so ridiculous to me. But because all that negative sentiment, those things are getting to be cheap. So anyway, but if we're going up the pricing ladder here beyond those, I would say I still love Supra. So Supra would be a top pick for me. F-Type has always been a second car I've always wanted to have, especially the convertible. I'd love an F-Type someday. And they're also getting stupid cheap. Apparently there's also people dumping their Jag because they don't like the brand anymore after this rebrand. And they're like embarrassed to be in an old, awesome Jag. So they're selling them and in large numbers. And so like F-Types now, you can get like a ratty F-Type for like 15 grand, which, would be great YouTube content, but would probably be a miserable ownership experience. Trust me, it's tempting though to like pick up the cheapest F-Type in the country that's like beat to hell and back and just document the carnage. But but you can actually get like a decent, higher mileage, but decent, like, under 80,000 mile F-Type now for mid 20s. Which again, I'm like, I wish I had money. If I had any money to spend right now, I know people were, wishing I get into a Mustang again someday, but like, I'm like, no, like, I'm like, I've always wanted an F-Type, and now they're finally, to a decent range affordability wise, but I'm just still, again, just not in a good enough place on this channel to drop any money on anything right now. But that'd be another top pick there for second car. And then, we go up the ladder. I can go to my whole dream car wish list of, things I would have if I, won the lottery. There'd be about 30 cars I'd buy as fun second cars. So the possibilities are limitless pretty much, but that's some of the top ones in a reasonable price range there. And so thanks for asking, Nicholas. Raphael says, I love the new Charger. Sound is important to me, and they're trying. The performance is there. Great car. I'm glad you like it, Raphael. And good to hear some positives from people for sure. I see Chris also asking what's up with the Cayman and Boxer. Will it be EV and the Ice 17 still made alongside, or is it going to be EV only? So yeah, it's going to be 718 production ends for the current generation sometime in 2025. And then they were hoping to have the EV version ready next year here in 2025. But now it sounds like they are well behind schedule. I just talked about this in my last weekly update. And so as a result, it sounds like there will be a gap between when they end production of the current one and when the electric one comes online in maybe 2026, maybe 2027. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be going away here. So that's why it's going to be sad times for Porsche fans, I think. Austin says, thanks for the Charger insight. I'm concerned with the software glitches and the price seems a bit too high. We shall see. Yeah, software glitches, definitely not fun. And it's something, I'm hoping that they've held it back so that it hopefully will be pretty good, from the get go here. And some of the stuff that we even encountered, on the press drive, that is stuff that they have said, these are pre-production vehicles. The production ones, we already know about these issues and we've already fixed them. I don't know why they couldn't fix them for the pre-production ones, but regardless, they're like, we're aware of these things. So hopefully it will be, pretty solid. But, like any car, I mean, this has been common wisdom for the past 100 years. Don't buy the first model year of something because they are figuring stuff out, and that goes for even some of the most reliable brands out there. So if you want to play it extra safe, never buy the first model year. But hopefully they get things figured out. And pricing, we will just see. I mean, it's so hard with pricing these days because again, everyone's used to pre-inflation stuff, and it's just that adjustment period is tough for people, and it's also just it's a lot of money. And for something experimental, it's a little bit harder to sell people for sure. And Luke, thank you so much for a super chat. He says the Jaguar thing reminds me of my dad. He says a certain band likes the opposite politics as him and he'll stop listening to them. I don't get people. Yeah, I mean, it's I can understand that. It's tough. It is tough because it does kind of sour stuff. So I can kind of relate to that. There's been things where I've been really disappointed, and you try and separate the art from the artist, and but I don't know, to me that does cloud my opinion of someone's work if they're saying stuff that's bothersome to me. So I mean, like for me, like the Jag thing, I think was an overreaction because again, that's literally just a marketing thing for the type of client they are marketing to. It's no different than a Gucci ad or anything else. They're all bizarre ads, but like that's the point. Like they know what they're doing. But I won't go back into that rabbit hole. But regardless, I can understand that because there's been some things like that for sure where personally, there's so many things like that where I've been disappointed by, things that I've seen and trying to separate. I'm like, man, I really like their music, or I really like their movies, or I really like their, you name it. And then just knowing these things, it taints your view of those people. And I've been guilty of that as well. And it's something that I'm trying to work out on my own. And I know everyone kind of lands on a different position on that stuff. Some people it doesn't bother them, other people it does. And I can see both sides of that. But it's tough. It's something I think a lot of people kind of confronted for the first time with, like the Michael Jackson stuff. I mean, amazing, musician. And then, there all this crap came out 20 years ago, and it's like, well, what do we do? Do we, and it's just these types of things, it's tough. So I can understand the dilemma there for sure. And thank you, Luke, for the super chat. And let me see here. Getting back to the other member questions. So, let me see. Danny's asking, what are your thoughts on Camry Turbo Diesel? Another vehicle I didn't know existed. Man, you would kill it like an automotive trivia night, Danny, because stuff that I've never even heard about. And you are very well educated as far as automotive trivia. That's impressive. So I'd love to hear about this. I need to make notes about all these vehicles you bring up to educate myself on them, because you bring out all this curiosity that I didn't vehicles I didn't even know existed. It's kind of funny. Corvette fan says, so Matt, my bestie Alexis doesn't know yet, but she will be getting her dream car, a 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Sahara. She is also wanted a Wrangler, so it's my Christmas present to her. That's awesome. Well, it's very generous of you. Congrats on being in the position as well to gift a car to someone, and a new car at that. That's really, really cool, and hope she enjoys it a lot. That's awesome. And kudos to you for your generosity. That is a really cool gift. Trent Car Guy says, I have an older Mopar and it's about to hit 235,000 on the original drivetrain. That's awesome. And I have heard some really good stuff, especially Pentastar V6 is very, very solid for sure. And the V8s are really good too. I think it was, again, mostly manual transmission stuff with Challengers that I heard were issues. But I think a lot of those Pentastars are really solid. Ford Enthusiast says Mustang GT with Coyote V8 is amazing and a blast to drive. Definitely my choice over Camaro and Challenger and Charger. Yeah, although I said this 10 years ago when I compared all three of these cars. I still think Camaro is the better handler for sure. But Mustang is kind of the nice middle ground of good enough handling, but more comfortable, more easy to live with than Camaro. With Challenger and Charger being the most comfortable, but the worst handling of the three, and so it's just kind of, I think Mustang's that happy medium for a lot of people. Mr. 705 says, what was your best video this year and the video that surprised you the most for views? Well, my best video hands down this year was the V8 Miata. That one I think is about almost 800,000 views now, and I haven't had a hit that big in a long time. Probably more than 5 years since I last had something hit that. Because even like when I took delivery of the Bullet, that was I think my biggest video in a long while, and that I think was still only like 500,000 views. So yeah, I mean it's probably pre 2018 was the last time I had something cross that many views. That was a really nice surprise. I did that car thinking, this could be really cool, and it was the exclusive thing of I was the first person to drive it outside of the shop. As far as and actually filming it. So I knew there was an exclusive there, and I knew there was a drought. There hadn't been any new V8 Miata videos posted in years. And no one had done the ND. So I knew going into it, like, this is probably going to be a pretty good video. I was expecting, maybe 50,000, maybe 100,000 views if I really got lucky. And the fact that that thing just kept on cruising and cruising and cruising and still, is getting 1,000 views a day or something, even as it is now. I mean, that was a really nice surprise and kind of restored my faith in my channel and in what I'm doing here, that like there is a chance that I could actually break through and get impressive views still, like I used to. I mean, if you look back, I have a bunch of reviews that are well over 1 million views, but again, it was a long time since I had that kind of success, and so that was really nice. And I'm very appreciative to the owner of Sarasota Super Sports to offer that opportunity to me. That was incredible, and I'm so happy that I decided to go out on a limb and try that out. So that was the biggest surprise and the biggest success, and that's definitely the high point of the year, and I'm so grateful for that video. It helped in so many ways. And Yhass says, whenever I see Kia, it reminds me of that Family Guy joke, Kia, too bad it's a Kia. I love Family Guy. So many good jokes there. And yeah, it's I think I heard the Kia joke once on there, but that might be a season before the ones that I started watching. I got to go back and like watch the older seasons, but it's kind of hard to go back because so many of the jokes are so disconnected from like modern, society, since it's been on for so long. But I need to go back and watch some of the earlier seasons because it's pure gold, and they haven't had a new season here really aside from those specials this year. So I've been kind of missing my Family Guy, so I maybe just go back and watch older ones again. Let me see. Bird Dog says, I had a 19 WRX. It was fun, but sold it after 2 years and paid it off. Thought about an Audi RS3, but wife's Golf wagon died. Bought a front-wheel drive Taos for her. I was looking at a GLI Autobahn 6-speed now. Those are fun. I just had the one a few weeks ago here. Really fun cars, and if you're someone who's into Volkswagens, you enjoy them. GLI is great, and great to see they're keeping the manual going on that. Austin says, I can't get behind the Jag rebrand. I get it's their Hail Mary, but they didn't have to throw out all the heritage. I mean, I still think the styling is got the long hood, like from E-Type and those types of things. I still think is a little bit there, but yeah, it's like you said, it's the Hail Mary, and we'll see if it works out for them. Immutable Dew says, Merry Christmas. Thanks for the weekly updates. Well worth the support. I appreciate that. And thanks so much for being a member as well. And actually, speaking of weekly updates, I have talked a lot this year about like the fate of the weekly updates and how I'm like a little iffy about, going forward with them because they just, really have dropped off in views a good bit this year. But I think I've figured out a way to keep them going and hopefully make them be a little bit more profitable. I'm pretty certain what I'm going to do in the new year with the weekly updates, and I'm kind of curious. I'm going to actually skip to the bottom of the comment section here, and I'm going to see what you guys think about this while we're on this topic, because I wanted to kind of gauge your interest on this. I think what I'm going to do for the weekly updates, I'm still going to do them as the usual, 30-minute long thing or whatever, and have timestamps to, hop around to whatever you want. But to try and expand the appeal of them, I think what I'm going to do in 2025 is separately upload every single segment. And I'm going to try and script the weekly update in a way where I can do a clean cut. So there might not be the smoothish transitions that I usually do, being like, speaking of blah, 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 and go into the next story. Instead of linking them, I'm going to segment my little segments a little bit just so I can cut them easier. But I'm going to cut them all as separate videos and upload those to the channel as so when you upload videos to YouTube, you can select whether you actually want them to go out to subscribers and go out to people who have notifications turned on, and you can unselect that. So I think what I'm going to do is upload them as separate videos, and only notify subscribers of the regular weekly update. And then all those little mini segments, I'm just going to feed it into the algorithm, let them find new viewers, or just push them to people through recommendations, and hopefully reach people that are like, I'm not sitting through a 30-minute weekly update, but I'll watch a 4-minute segment on the Hyundai Palisade for 2026 or whatever the case is. And I think, the problem with the weekly updates is there's so many things that get buried, and there's a lot of things that, make good videos on their own, and they just all gets buried because I have to pick the top, 2 or 3 things for the headline, and that's all I can do. And so, trying to just maximize the appeal of the amount of work that I'm doing with them, I think will hopefully, maybe it'll bomb and maybe no one will watch them, but I feel like I had thought about doing that in the past, but I was always worried about annoying subscribers being like, here's your sub box with 15 videos from me in the same day. And I didn't want to blow people's sub boxes up, especially people that have notifications, be like, ding, 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 with 10 different notifications all on the same Friday. So, now that I can unselect that and make those videos go out without any of you even knowing about it, unless you search for it, and just literally put them out there into the internet, hopefully pick up some extra views and monetize those, and hopefully also expand the appeal for automotive news on this channel to then, bring in some new subscribers that maybe do want to watch the weekly update. Because I think the weekly update, even though the views have dropped off this year, I still see promise in it because, one, I get really high TV viewership with those, and YouTube keeps saying how the TV viewership is growing and that like more and more people are watching on TV and more people are watching podcasts on YouTube, and that is classified as a podcast, and it is, you can actually just listen to it if you're not interested in seeing the stuff I'm talking about. You can just listen to it. And so I think the fact that it's a podcast, the fact that it's TV friendly, to me, it has a potential still. And I know there are so many people that still absolutely love it as well. That doesn't help keep it around, unfortunately, because it's just not a lot of, viewers that feel that way. But I think hopefully, with all those, different components being broken out, I'm hoping that makes it more worthwhile. Maybe it won't, but I'm going to try that at least and see how that goes. And if that doesn't work out, the last ditch effort is going to be putting it on a separate channel of just only weekly updates on a different channel and see if the algorithm likes it any better that way. But I'm optimistic that keeping it on the main channel here and just breaking it out will hopefully help. So I saw a few hearts there from some people. I see Nicholas says, great idea. And I see Cars also says that B. Mitchell says that's fine. Yes, anything to keep him going. Jordan says, okay. And Mr. 705 says, I used to watch Fastlane Daily every day for my car news. Now that that's gone, I really look forward to watching the weekly updates. Okay. So, yeah. All right. I'm glad you guys like the idea then. And Patrick says, try and see if it drives some more subscriber growth. With that. So, and Dylan says, as long as it doesn't put you in a terrible time crunch. Yeah, it shouldn't be any extra work, really. It'll be a little bit, but basically, if I already am editing the whole weekly update, I can just separately render out each section. So it's already done. The only extra work is doing, unique thumbnails for each of those videos and titling them and, uploading them. So hopefully that won't take me more than, 30 minutes to an hour. And, again, I'll try it out. And if the views are, even if each video gets a few hundred views, it'll probably help a little bit and help enough to make it worthwhile. But, even if they pick up 1,000 views each or something, that would be enough to, again, just be like, okay, I'm adding a little bit more money to the pot here for the weekly updates to justify those. So that's probably the way I'm going to try to do it. I see everyone, wants to keep the weekly updates around. So I'm happy I figured that out. I'm hoping that does work out as well. And I'll be curious to hear from you guys if you start seeing those in the recommendations next year, or whether YouTube just completely ignores subscribers and just actually goes to non-subscribers, which would be great because I think that's again just trying to build the audience and expand to just grow everything is still kind of the goal that I'm trying to do here. But Snarkle says the only thing I don't like about that is sometimes I go to a channel and scroll through the recent videos for car reviews I missed. Now I have to scroll through 10 to 15 videos every week to find the car reviews, but I'm probably in the minority. Okay, that's a good point. I didn't think of that, so thank you for bringing that up. So maybe I will more emphasize playlists, maybe to separate that out. But I mean, yeah, there's no way to get around if you are just going through uploads. You're going to see a ton of videos. So okay, I mean, yeah, it'll be an experiment, and I'll try it. If I hear a lot of backlash like that, and there is more than just a few people that have that experience, then maybe I will quit doing it that way and maybe put it on a separate channel or something. But yeah, because I think I have the playlist pretty high up there, but I would just recommend if you want to see the most recent car reviews, there's a car review playlist, and you can always just click on the playlist, and it'll have hopefully the newest car reviews there right at the top, I think. And so that should be an easy way to kind of filter out all the other crap. If you want just car reviews, click on the car review playlist. That'll have everything right there, hopefully. So that'd be one way to get around it. But whether or not people see that, or if that's user friendly, I don't know. But I know YouTube is also playing around with playlists and how they do playlists. So I'll try and see if there's a way to make that a little bit more accessible and prominent, so that it's maybe something that's more presented to people, so that it doesn't get confusing. I see Lorenzo says, I like the idea. Short segment vids could reach those of us on TikTok too if you wanted to. Yeah, now that takes a little more editing because then I have to crop it for vertical. And, if I'm talking about a car, I often have it off on my shoulder, like that would get cropped out of the TikTok. So I'd have to either like reposition, and then that gets a little more editing intensive. Also, I don't know what the fate of TikTok is. I mean, I guess I could put it on reels and shorts as well. But I think all the segments will be longer than a minute, or I think most of them are usually longer than 3 minutes even. So probably, and I don't think I'll even do segments for every little snippet. I'll only do segments for the ones where I think this is something that people actually would see in a standalone video and want to watch, But yeah, the TikTok thing, I'm not doing any investment in TikTok until I know what their fate is. I mean, I think the Supreme Court's now going to hear something, I think, before the end of the year, right? As far as whether there's this emergency ban lifted off TikTok or whatever. But yeah, because I actually have a friend who's trying to do more TikTok stuff, and I'm like, dude, just wait and see what happens, because it could just get wiped off, the App Store by the end of this year if things don't go their way. So we'll see what happens. But I agree, if there is an easy way to do that, that would make sense. And maybe someday that'll be something, if I can invest a little bit more time into, working that out so that it can be vertical friendly, that'd be good too. And Patrick says, could let you drop a segment earlier than Friday for something breaking. Well, so the thing with the segments is the fact that it would all just be while I'm sitting down filming, and it's the ease of that is the fact that it still is just the weekly update. It's literally just the same thing. It's not, I wouldn't be filming anything separately. It would just be the same weekly update, just cutting out that timestamp and uploading that separately. So it wouldn't be any more breaking stuff. I know that's the way to do news, is to, cover stuff as it's breaking news. So I would still be late to, reporting on some of this stuff. But for a lot of people, there still are people who are there's a lot of people on YouTube still that have no idea, for example, a 2026 Palisade was even revealed. So even if I didn't post that in the first day or two that it was revealed, I still think I have a chance of getting some views on that stuff, especially again if it's a super easy thing to do. But yeah, the only way I'd ever be able to do breaking news is if I quit doing car reviews and I was literally sitting in my computer all day just waiting for news to drop. That's the only way I could actually do that effectively. But yeah, I see Austin says Matt's motoring musings. Yeah, that's still I don't know, maybe I'll do some more rant stuff next year, but judging how the Jag video went over, I don't know if my unfiltered musings are anything people want to see beyond these live streams where you guys kindly indulge me every week here while I just ramble. But Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that kind of stuff is super easy to do, so there may be a little bit more of that mixed in next year. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks so much for the feedback, guys. I appreciate that, and yeah, I think I'm gonna try. I'll try it out and see what happens. I don't really have anything to lose with those. I don't think. Hopefully, so hopefully it'll be a painless experiment. We'll see what happens. But let me see here. Getting back to the member questions. Where were we? So, um, Austin says, I saw a Christmas BMW commercial. Didn't have the same vibe as those old school Lexus ones, though. Right. Yeah. Lexus does it the best for sure. Austin, actually, and funny thing, too, the BMW commercials are really, really well done. And the guy who directed the BMW Christmas commercial the past couple of years, he was a fan of the channel and like offered, he's like, hey, if you're ever in LA, I'd be more than happy to help you film. And this was like 10 years ago. And now he's like turning into this like big impressive director, and he's a very brilliant director. I think he's going to really go places. So but it's kind of a fun thing. Every time I see those BMW commercials, I'm like, I know the guy who who directed those, and it's really cool. But let me see. Snarkle also says, thanks for the answer on the Corvette versus Camaro. Sounds like I'll either keep the Camaro or get the Z51. Difficult to test drive because of availability around me, but I'll test drive before buying. Yeah, it's definitely worth a trip, even if you gotta, do a road trip to drive one or something. Or I think even like rental places, some places have that, or if I don't know where you live, but like there's always like the Vegas drive experiences and various things like that, possibly to maybe try it out. Austin says, Matt, what's your opinion of the new gen Mini dropping the manual permanently and deleting the visible exhaust and paddle shifters unless you go for the John Cooper Works? I don't love those choices. I mean, I think manual is such a high take rate for the minis. Getting rid of it was just a bad choice. I understand. The problem with the mini here is they are also pivoting and this is what every company is struggling with right now, is they planned for this new mini 5 years ago when electric hype was very strong, when they really didn't even know if they were going to need a gas version. It was kind of like an afterthought. It's, carryover performance stuff. It wasn't something I think that they really invested a lot of thought or money into, because they just were, focused on not only the electric thing, but also, the Euro 7 emission stuff, suggesting you couldn't really have the manuals for whatever reason. This is why, GTI dropped it, Golf R dropped it, all these companies, they were, again, preparing for this for years. And then now all of a sudden everything's loosening up and everything's, all over the place. And so now it's like, maybe they will reintroduce it. I think there's a decent chance, again, if Mini also can pollute as much as they want and it doesn't matter, for at least a while, then they may reverse course and say, okay, well, now we don't have to worry about emissions regulations anymore. Let's go back and, add the manual in. Let's, lean into the gas thing more than we were planning on. And I think, there's a chance that stuff comes back. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's a shame that it's gone for now, but at least the good thing is, thankfully, it's all carryover mechanicals. So, aside from, booting up the supplier again to get that stuff going, hopefully it's a pretty easy lift for them to, get that back in there. I think they will put it back in, even if just a cash in for the next few years until, stuff maybe gets back to some kind of regulations. I don't know. We'll see. But I think there's a chance it can go back. But yeah, I think, it's great to give people choices, but give people the choices of the manual, of, getting rid of the exhaust tips is kind of weird on a gas car to me anyway. So I think, they'll lean back into that stuff, hopefully. And, I think the EV version is great to offer. And I'm excited to, try it out once we finally get it here in the next few years. But yeah, I'm sad to see the manual go for sure. And Austin says he also saw a GR Corolla sold on Cars and Bids for 31 grand. That's even cheaper. Wow, man. I'm so disappointed in myself. I don't have the money to jump on something like that. Car says, I would love to see you buy a 2023 GR Corolla. Speaking of which, for about 30 to 35 grand, make lots of content featuring your adventures, surprises, and fun with it. Yeah, I'd love to. Honestly, on the topic of disappointing videos for this year, that automatic GR Corolla video of did not do well. I think my video on the 2025 Toyota Sienna got more views than the GR Corolla automatic, which really shows that the subscribers did not show up for that video there. That rando people watching a Sienna video are getting more traffic than that automatic GR Corolla. So I don't know. I mean, the plummeting prices and the fact that no one's watching videos on them anymore, it just makes me think, it'd be a personal thing that I would be selfishly wanting for myself, but I don't think it would actually make good content, unfortunately. I would love to be proven wrong on that, and I'd certainly give it a try if I had the money and, wanted to get one of those. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's something people are into on the internet right now is GR Corolla. Unfortunately, I'm so sad because it is a brilliant car, but the internet just decided I think it's just, again, the mismanagement of the warranty stuff that Toyota did. I think they kind of killed it, and it was not worth it. They should have paid out, the few blown engines or whatever the case was. Spending, I don't know how much it costs for a GR Corolla motor, but spending $5-7 grand tops on a few engines, even if you spend $100,000, taking care of people for this, on a brand new car too, which they should have anyway. Like, even just, from a PR standpoint, that's the smart move. Drop 100 grand, take care of the people, make yourself look good as best you can. I mean, yeah, you still have egg on your face that this motor is blowing up in a couple of cars. There's also thousands of them driving around happily. It's always, again, out of proportion with, the horror stories online. But regardless, they should have just done that and just been like, look, even if you are in the wrong, even if it was some idiot who was just sitting at red line driving like a complete moron, like, they should have just covered it just to avoid the negative PR. And then I think there would have been a lot more hype. I think also dealers killed the hype, with the stupid markups. And so, but it's just a shame because Toyota really priced that car so well. And I still say it every time I talk about a WRX or a Golf R or something. I'm like, just get a GR Corolla. It's priced so well, but they just killed that hype. And Austin agrees. Yeah, GR Corolla hype has sailed. Same with Cybertruck. The internet's attention span is pretty limited. Yeah. And so that's the problem. Snarkle says, if you want views, get a truck. I will never buy a truck. I am not a truck person. I know, yeah. Get a Ram R show and make clickbait titles about how it's ruined because of the engine choice. That's what gets views these days. Yeah. And that's why my channel is not growing, because I refuse to do the stuff that makes my skin crawl, and crap like that just like makes me cringe to even think about that. But that's the way to do it. It's very predictable, and I'm anticipating you will see a lot of people lean into that stuff as, again, things have shifted politically. I'm sure you will see a lot of people, just follow the trends, and it's safe to say that gas guzzlers will be the trend here for next year and probably beyond too. But yeah, so we'll see. I am contemplating the idea of getting a very cheap car, potentially just because I need an airport runner, pretty much. So I probably won't do it because most of the time I can drive to the airport with press cars and stuff. But there's some really cheap lease deals right at the end of the year here on some EVs. So a little bit of a spoiler alert, it will be electric if it is something that I pick up, and it's going to be stupid cheap, like so cheap that like it's probably going to be cheaper than like 2 Ubers to the airport. And usually I do at least 2 trips a month. So that's why I'm like, do I pay to have some person? And I don't know about you guys, but do not have good luck with Lyfts and Ubers. Every single Lyft ride that I took this year was a little sketchier than I would have liked. Some were worse than others. I mean, I had like a Lyft where a dude was like blowing every stop sign and like driving erratically, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the airport. But like, so there's been some not fun times. I'm not a good passenger oftentimes as well, so I like being in control and driving. But it's getting to the point with some of these leases on these EVs where I can basically probably save money versus taking a couple Uber rides to the airport every month. So that's the tempting thing. And I see Austin saying, move to Colorado and lease a 500E. It's essentially free. I am so jealous of that. And I will tell you that absolutely. If I lived in Colorado, I would have a 500e in the garage right now. Like, I mean, it's a free car, but especially, something that I just literally need to go to the airport and back. I don't need a high mileage thing, and I don't want to do maintenance on it because it's literally going to put 100 miles on it a month. Like, that is the perfect car for me right now for what I need and for this specific job of just driving me to the airport and back, without having to endure the sketchiness of an Uber. Um, so we will see. I have a couple options that I'm currently talking to dealers, seeing if anyone can give me a really good deal that I can't pass up. I still probably will turn it down because it's actually nice having the empty garage space now to put press cars in, and especially in the winter here, not having to clean snow off a press car because it's in the garage where the bullet used to sit is kind of nice. Trying to see the glass half full here, but yeah, I also don't like taking sketchy Uber rides. So if I can get a car for less than a couple Uber rides a month to the airport, I will. I may do a surprise impulse buy on a car this week. We'll see. And by buy, I mean a lease on an EV because they're stupid cheap right now. So we'll see. But stay tuned for that. And I see Knight says get a VinFast. I'm not that brave. I'm also not getting a Fisker because that kind of stuff is way too sketchy. I need to actually get to the airport, and I can't guarantee that I would do that in a VinFast or in a Fisker or anything like that. But Luke, thank you so much for the super chat. He says my brother let me drive his new to him 2020 Hyundai Santa Fe. I said let's turn on this backer and see how it does. He said this is how it ends. That's good. That's pretty funny. I hope you enjoyed the test drive there in the Santa Fe, and I appreciate you spreading the back road lore to others. That's funny. Thanks for the super chat, Luke. And let me see. Dylan says the Jag commercial threw him for a loop because I thought it was a clothing commercial until the end. Yep, and I think that is exactly what they're going for, copy and all that stuff. And sorry, Jordan, I missed your super chat. I apologize. I somehow skipped over that. He says, any drones or flying cars around your area? No. No, nothing like that. I don't know. Has that died down now, the drone thing? I haven't heard anyone freaking out about that in the past day or two, so I'm assuming the drones have just disappeared, right? I don't know. I haven't followed it closely because to me, it's not a real concern. It was so funny. I think it was just a nice distraction for the media from not talking about Luigi or whatever, but yeah, the drones, trust me, if there were any real threat, the Navy would have shot them down immediately. There is no way. It's definitely a military thing that they're having to test out in the open, and they just don't want to, show their cards. There's no way that is any kind of real threat, in my opinion. I mean, unless you think the military is worrying, but I don't think it's anything foreign or anything from outer space, personally. But it's been funny to see the amount of people losing their minds. And then people, like anything with half of these UFO videos, like people are like filming a reflection. They don't realize it's like a reflection. They're like, whoa, like why is it lighting up like this? And it's like you can see the glass and it's like reflecting off, it's like a street light that's passing by or something. It's so funny, some of this stuff. Anyway, let me see here. Other member questions. Yeah, Luke says he doesn't mind updates for anything under 50 grand, but the exotic stuff they don't really listen to. Yeah, and that makes sense. I completely can understand that. I'm also personally getting burned out talking about half these $1 million cars that all these billionaires can afford, and it's just like this isn't even real car news. It's just like the toys of the rich. I have no interest in just covering one-offs anymore. It's just boring to me. Exotics are fine. I still like exotics, but once we're getting to these, multi-million-dollar one-off commissions, it's like I've actually stopped covering some of them because I'm just like, this is stupid. I don't know why this needs to even be covered. It's someone just went out and bought a car is essentially what it is, But Spy Harpy says, I read an article of how the new Kia logo looks like KN. A friend of mine who's not a car guy saw one and asked me what car this was, told him Kia, and he read it as KN thinking it was a new brand. Yep, it's been a huge problem. And Kia knows this has been an issue. I'm not sure if they're going to change or what, but absolutely, dealers are complaining about it. Lots of people are complaining about it. I think as car people, we kind of already are used to some of this kind of stuff. So for me, it didn't throw me either, but I know for a lot of people, yeah, it's confusing. And I can understand it's not a very clear logo for sure. Um, and Let me see here. Not says, are there any car brands that offer built-in dash cams? With all the cameras loaded on cars these days, why hasn't a brand offered a dash cam package? Um, so a lot of companies do. Some of them are a little more OEM built in than others. So Cadillac does, for example, all the performance data recorder stuff now also functions. It actually has for a long time now. All the GM vehicles with the PDR system that has a dash cam. So C7 Corvette has that if you have that option. C8 Corvette. I think Camaro actually had it as well. Any of the performance GM vehicles, the Black Wings all have it. So those are offering that. I actually just covered it in my Nissan reviews too. Now there is the built-in dash cam in the Armada, and there is. I know even I had a Toyota Sequoia for a week. I don't know, like last year or something. That had a Toyota accessory dash cam that is like it's actually really like well integrated into the top of the windshield there. And they do offer them. And there, if you actually look, like whenever you're on a car configurator site and you look through the accessories, there's actually a surprising amount of them that do offer a dash cam, either as a dealer installed accessory or some of them are actually factory installed. So it's definitely getting more popular. They know a lot of people want this stuff, and so there are a lot that do that. I do understand your point though about everything has forward monitoring cameras for all the safety stuff. Why not have that also record? And I think that the problem with a lot of those cameras is they are cameras that see and detect the things that they need to see and detect for those systems to work properly. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a good quality dash cam, just because the mounting's really high. The cameras are super wide angle, so they're supposed to catch pedestrians on the sidewalks and all this kind of stuff. And it would probably distort the image to the human eye, so it might not be great for that. It's a camera that is designed for computers to analyze the data coming in, not to give you a pretty picture. So I think that's part of why you haven't seen people companies just use that feed for a dash cam. Maybe it's possible. Some of them, I don't know. I've never seen what it looks like from the image from those cameras, but I think they're very specifically calibrated for certain usage cases, and so I think that's why it's wouldn't be a great dash cam possibly. But again, there's a lot that are offering that now, from the factory or from the dealer. So I'm glad it's getting to be more and more common, because I think it's a great thing to offer for people. I highly recommend dash cams for sure. And let me see. Gran saying, "Hi Matt, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Thanks for stopping by, Gran. Hope you're doing well." And just having a good time here. We got another half an hour to go. And Austin says, speaking of, Matt, what's your opinion on YouTube car reviewers blurring their speedometer in their videos? I agree. The high dollar one-offs are not very interesting to me. Gotcha. As far as the blurring of the speedometer, I think it's a smart move for sure. And I think in the past, a long time ago, even I blurred a couple of speedometers. The thing is, for the POV videos, that's the problem is, and this is why I don't do POV. I've done a couple of them. Like I did a couple, I think one or two bullet POVs. I did a couple on the BRZ way back when, and I've done a handful of POV videos. But in my POV videos, I don't go very fast, and that's the problem. If you want to have, I guess if you want to just show someone like here's literally what it's like to just drive this vehicle normally, maybe there's some appeal there. But especially for enthusiast vehicles, like no one wants to see me do the speed limit in an S2000. Like you want to see me redlining it, and if you're doing that, you're filming yourself speeding. So it's tricky. It's not even a gray area. Like it is. You're giving yourself, jailbait pretty much by doing that. I don't think it's a safe idea. I know Chris Amos from Winding Road very well. He's, been doing it for a long time. And he's, not really worried about it. And there's many others that do that stuff. And I'm glad that someone's doing it. I think it's a great idea to show a great POV, and he's, and many others do really good POV videos. And I'm happy that those videos are out there, but I'm not envious of, the liability that they're opening up. And it's just something that, this is why I've always refused POV videos. Trust me, it's easier. It's so much easier. I'm so jealous of the people that can just pop a GoPro on their hat, go for a drive and talk and upload it, and they're done. My life would be so much easier if I could do that and I could not worry about the legal ramifications of that. I would love to do that. It would be so, so nice. But to me, it's not good. Even with my videos, the way I edit them, if someone really wants to figure out how fast you're going, especially cops, they can look at, markers and say, okay, well, we see this milestone here of they just passed by this telephone pole. And then we know this other telephone pole is X amount of feet away. They can calculate that stuff already anyway, if they really, really wanted to. But, even with my stuff, when I edit it, I try not to have a long portion of footage if I am potentially going faster than the speed limit, potentially. And so I cut away and I say, okay, well, now here's a shot of my face. Now here's a shot of the side of me. Now here's a shot of, the forward facing camera, but not for too long. And then I go back and forth to try. And I also edit. Like when you watch the video, hopefully it looks seamless and it looks like one continuous thing. But there are some very sneaky edits I do where I cover stuff with B-roll, and I messed up, or I said or a few too many times, and I'm like, I gotta cut this out. And so I cut out some of the ums and and hopefully no one even picks up on that. But that distorts the timeline as well. So then you see me on this back road and I say, woo, this WRX is really fast. It has 271 horsepower. And then I'm like, crap, it's 276. I'm like, 276. But then that distorts the timeline because now I'm in a different spot in the road. And it's hard to say, did he cut? Did he not cut? And so once you have those cuts, you can introduce the ambiguity. And with the POV stuff, you can't do that. So I've thought through this a lot because I don't want to ever have any kind of, legal worries with that stuff. But I think, the Marcus Brownlee stuff, with his Ruelto video, I think really kind of put a spotlight on this that probably made some others nervous of like, okay, like I'm waiting, because every once in a while, you see like some really famous YouTuber or some big crackdown on like one video or something, and it's like, are we gonna go for everybody that's doing this, or are we just making an example of this one person? Because there are so many videos and so many YouTubers that again would really be up a creek if they actually decided to equally enforce these kinds of things that they went after Marcus Brownlee for and stuff. So it's the whole blurring of speedometer thing, that helps for sure. But if you are showing the outdoors, they can figure out how fast you're going, especially if it's a single take. You got to do cuts, you got to do different angles. I'm even with my side shot of my GoPro, you can kind of make out the speed sometimes. So I only show that side shot if I am doing the speed limit or less, or, within any kind of reasonable margin. But if I'm ever, that's why you never see the side shot of me when I'm doing an acceleration. Because potentially maybe I have gone 1 mile per hour over the speed limit when I'm doing an acceleration, potentially. So I don't want to show that with that GoPro side shot. So it's always on me, or it's the flyby exterior shot of the car that I filmed, few days prior or whatever, that's completely unrelated to what you're actually seeing me driving, so I always just store all that stuff so that if you're trying to put the pieces together to formulate some kind of timeline, you can't do it. So I make sure that I'm, very methodical about how I edit. And that is one of the nice things about all the editing that I do is, it does blur that line there. And while we're talking about that, I see other people mentioning, let me see. I don't want to miss the other member questions here, but just while we're on the topic here. Austin says, I worry about privacy with built-in cameras. To be honest, I can see the data being sold to insurance companies for the OEM stuff. Yeah, I think all of these typically they're not connected to the cloud, so I don't think you have to worry about that, but I'm not sure. Maybe some of them are. Jordan says, when you review vehicles, who films the B-roll exterior shots of you driving? That is my sister most of the time, that is sitting in the front passenger seat of the Mach-E while Beth drives and films just right next to us there. Sometimes Beth, if my sister is busy, then Beth will be the one filming. And then typically her dad is the one that will be driving in his Buick Regal Tourex, doing rolling shots in that instead. But it's always a fun family affair either way. And let me see. But Austin says someone did a compilation of MKBHD being pulled over numerous times. I think the Fisker CEO has a vendetta. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, when you're that popular, there's a lot of people I'm sure that would love to see you, fail or get taken down or whatever. And it's just unfortunate, that's just part of the territory. You get a target on your back. But let me see here. Other questions. So Jay Bill says, do you think Chinese EVs like the Neo and Xpeng will be sold in the US? I don't know. We will have to see, what the policies end up being next year and what ends up happening. It's to me a 50-50 shot. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. Again, it's so hard for me to predict what's going to happen next year for anything. Snarkle says, what are some logistics of getting and returning press cars? Someone leaves it at the airport with keys in the car. You don't meet them. Do you return with full tank? So press cars, typically, I would love to swap at the airport because then that would nullify my need for a airport vehicle, to go back and forth. But no, press cars typically are just dropped off in my driveway, all clean with a full tank of gas. And then I drive it around for the week and give it back to them dirty and with less gas than I got in it. So, I don't ever, unless I need to drive more than a full tank of gas, I don't ever put gas in them. I always make sure there's enough gas that can, get to the gas station without like having to be sweating bullets or anything. So, but yeah, it's that simple. And they literally just drop it off in my driveway. They come pick it up from my driveway. And it's a very, very nice experience. Very, very easy for sure. So there's really nothing else to it. It's pretty straightforward. And let me see. Where were we here? Sorry, I'm just trying to find my spot. Luke says he thought the Santa Fe was nice. The 2.0T had a little bit of lag from a complete stop, but once it got going, it felt really powerful. Nice, yeah. I think I remember the same kind of thing. It has a thinking period with the transmission, and then it finally gives you everything you want from it. And let me see. Individual says, hey, Matt, is the 2024 GTI manual a better buy than the 25 GLI manual? Great question. I still think GTI handles better than GLI. So if handling is a high priority for you, then I would say in that case, go for the GTI. If you like knobs and buttons, you still have a little bit more of that in the GLI with the older infotainment system. You don't have the new infotainment system like you get in the GTI. So that's a personal preference thing. Personally, I don't think the GTI is, I don't think the infotainment system's that bad. I actually just had a Volkswagen ID Buzz for a week this past week. And that infotainment system with a few little tweaks they've made to it is better than it used to be. So, personally, me, I'd probably rather have the GTI over the GLI. But they're both really good. It just comes down to those personal preference things. And also says I think GLI lacks independent rear suspension. I don't know if that's true. I thought it had one for the GLI. I think it's the regular Jetta that has the solid beam, but I could be wrong on that. But MDCan, thank you so much for gifting 10 memberships. I really appreciate the generosity there. And Danny got one. Danny got a membership. You did it, MDCan. After all these, I don't know how long has it been, like 2 months or something. I've been waiting for Danny to get a membership again. He's been finally gifted. I see some familiar faces there as well, able to get the membership. So thanks so much, MDCan. You're the MVP tonight here with giving the 10 memberships and finally getting one there for Danny. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sure all those members really appreciate that as well, especially Danny. Hopefully he's still around. Maybe he signed off for the night here, but I'm sure he'll be excited to see that. But thanks so much, MDCan. Hope you're doing well. And he says Christmas blessing there for Danny. That's awesome. Thanks so much, MDCan. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had some fun cruising maybe this weekend with the N Club there. And yeah, awesome. And let me see. John says, what's up with the US sedan market? Everything is a truck and SUV. I'm talking about the domestic manufacturers, O2 WX and O5 STI owner in the past. Excitement has faded. 2.3 manual Bronco owner nowadays. Gotcha. Yeah, as far as the sedan market, I think it is starting to seems like have some resilience. There are some pretty strong sales these days in the sedan segment from the few last, remaining players here. I mean, obviously Malibu's going away. So as far as domestic manufacturing, that's kind of going away. Obviously Ford's been gone for a long time. Same with Dodge, but I guess technically sedan, Charger's coming back, so there's that. But no, I mean all the other main ones, Camry's doing well sales wise. Accord's doing pretty well. Sonata is really doing super well since this refresh really invigorated sales for that. And I think K5 is still doing pretty good too. We got K4 coming here, so there's still some life left in the segment. But obviously not what it once was. And Grid Shift says, any word on the next generation Elantra N? I haven't heard anything about that in a long while. So, I mean, there was that early rumor that it was going to go up to a 2.5-liter motor. But I haven't heard anything about it since probably last year at this point. So I'm not sure, what the deal is, or what the status is on that. I'm guessing again, if everyone is loosening up on emissions around the world, then maybe they do drop the 2.5-liter in there. Maybe they still just stick with the 2-liter. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I unfortunately have not heard anything. Omar says, hey, Matt, how many years do you think we'll have to pass until the C8 Corvette is under 30 grand? I'd have to see what they're at currently price-wise to kind of guess. Because I think even C7s, they dropped under 30, but then I feel like they kind of rebound a little bit. I'm not sure what a nice C7 goes for these days. I haven't looked recently, but I think C7 could be a good way to judge that of, how old of a C7 you have to get it under 30 grand, and then apply that same math to C8. And that would probably give you your answer. I think, especially you could see some, rougher ones get to that point once C9 comes onto the scene. I think C9, I think they said 2028 maybe for that, 2030, something like that for a C9, which will still have a V8 and still be gas powered. So, I mean, hopefully it'll be sooner than that, maybe, but I'm not sure. And Dragon Car Guy says, have you had any cars with safety systems that are way too sensitive? We had a few rentals that are so sensitive they will panic stop when we were just going into a car wash. Some cars do need to have a car wash mode. There's a few cars that actually do have a car wash mode. The Mach-E does have one too, even to allow you to, roll and allow you to, have the car not freak out, whenever it sees that stuff. But yeah, there was a period, especially, from when they first started doing automatic emergency braking stuff, like, 2017 or so, into the early 2020s, where a lot of those systems were really overzealous. And I've noticed over the past few years, they've gotten a lot looser with, they're not quite as militant with these systems. They still do a really good job, but they've just worked out how to do it in a less obtrusive way. And so it was just like, I think, a learning curve for a lot of these companies. And now they have better technology and better logic as far as the programming for these systems so that it's not so overreactive. But absolutely, it's been an issue. I know even like Beth's 2 C classes she had in the past, both of them, I think the biggest culprit was that her 2016 C300 that did like, I think, 2 full ABS stops on her for no reason. That car just saw ghosts. And there was multiple times where it just like, even just driving through an intersection, it would just be like, oh, like there's something there, but it wouldn't jam on the brakes. It would just be like, oh, let's get ready to like stop and give you that warning. But there was 2 times. She was actually, one of the times when she was nannying, she was driving one of the kids in the back and like it did a full stop with no one around. And it was just like, luckily there was no one behind her either, but it's like, it was sketchy for some of those early systems. And thankfully, again, they have gotten better. But yeah, I think like Subaru system used to be really naggy, and now, even with everything on, it's less of a nuisance than it used to be. So I think there's a lot of companies that have improved that a lot, thankfully. Yeah, I think Subaru is one of the most annoying ones in the past, and again, thankfully, they're now a little bit better too. And Goth Rocker says, Matt, always remember, even if you lease a car, still need car insurance. So the monthly payment is one thing, but also don't forget insurance costs. Absolutely, yeah, and that's one of the things that's also feeding into my debate between the few cars that I'm considering as far as the super cheap leases is I think the one is going to be more expensive for insurance for sure. So that'll probably increase the gap and probably push me to the cheaper one. If I decide to go with any of them, we'll see. But yes, absolutely, car insurance is top of my mind. It was definitely one of the considerations, and again, because everything I'm considering is an EV, because again, they're so cheap with those leases, it may turn out that, with EVs kind of having more expensive insurance, typically that might price it out of consideration if, combining the insurance cost, even with a dirt cheap lease, still might be more expensive than Ubering a few times, a month. So we'll see. I'm still kind of debating it because I don't want to I'm only going to do it if it saves me money. If I have to spend, more than like 50 or $100 extra a month to have a car versus, just getting an Uber ride, then I'll just, do the Ubers and I'm not going to spend the extra money, but I'm going to see if it can actually save me money. I will go for it. And Grant says, do you still miss your Bullet? Absolutely. I do miss it a good bit. But thankfully I know it's with a great new owner who's taking really good care of it and enjoying it a lot. And so that makes me feel good about it. And I'm also just happy it's out of the garage and it's being enjoyed, because that car, part of the tragedy of that car is, it just sat for so much of its life. And it didn't deserve that. I wanted it to be out racking up miles. I wanted to put 200,000 miles on it. I was not wanting it to be a garage queen, and it was just turning into a garage queen because I was just too damn busy to drive it. And so I'm actually happy it's, going out and actually living its life. So, but I do miss it. Night 50 says smaller SUVs that drive like cars are what people are buying, unless you need a larger third row vehicle. Sedans have been dying for years now, though some are still available. Yep. And Dave says, how about a long-term review of that Regal Tour-X? Yeah, I actually was debating doing a review on one whenever my father-in-law bought it. And then I wasn't sure it was going to be worth it from a view standpoint, so I never bothered reviewing it. But a long-term thing would be good. I mean, pretty easy to, as far as I know, the only weird thing was I think he had his dome lights were being weird, and he had to take it to the dealer for that. Other than that, I don't know. I think he's maybe around 50,000 miles on it now or something. It's been flawless. He loves it. He gets compliments everywhere he goes. He still has people ask him what it is and love it. And he gets, people love it. People are always nice to him about it, and he loves it. And he's really happy with it. So that's about it. That's the whole video. Not a whole lot to talk about, which is a good thing. It's a reliable car. It's built in Germany for those Tour X's. It's really solid. It's a European car, just the Opel, Vauxhall thing that they put Buick badges on, and it's a really solid car. Let me see here. Super Steve says, hey Matt, ever got your hands on an LFA? Never drove one. I've sat in them a couple of times. There was someone who offered me one up in, I think, Montreal a long time ago, and just never had a chance to review it or make the trip. But I'd love to review one someday. Excuse me. They're obviously very, very amazing cars. It'd be a lot of fun. And MD says, Merry Christmas from myself, Kraken, the Kona N, and Coco, the Kona Knight, to everyone. Thank you so much again for your generosity. Let me see. JBL says, have you driven the Autobahn yet? I did review the Autobahn GLI. I posted that a few weeks ago. You can definitely check it out if you haven't yet. And Austin says, Danny has been a cash cow for it. I was just hoping that YouTube would do the right thing and, give it to people that are actually in the live stream here. But happy that, that Danny finally got one. But I appreciate everyone's support, trying to get him a membership. And happy that it has helped the membership growth as well, for sure. Let me see. He says another fellow N owner got it as well. So yeah, that's awesome. Let me see here. So got about 7 minutes to go. Small Cookie says, wrong Danny. Is it really the wrong Danny? If it's another person with Danny for the username, I'll be, oh man, is that really? I don't know. I haven't seen Danny comment. Is it, did actually go to someone else? That would be insane if that's the case. Um, is it a different one? I don't even know. Oh man. Well, never mind. I guess we will keep waiting and seeing if the right Danny gets it. Man, we were so close. um, and let me see. Jay Bill says seems like Subaru is trending back to the new STI with the trim packages offered on the WRXs. Yeah, I mean they're getting as close as they can get without doing the somewhat harder work of putting in the diff and the engine. But we'll see. I'll see if Subaru ever comes to their senses or not. MD Can says, I'm curious what is going to happen with the next gen Elantra N. I think they could go hybrid or full battery electric. Wouldn't mind the latter if it has the same tech as Ioniq 5N. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, if they want Elantra N to me needs to still be affordable. I mean, obviously Ioniq 5N, 65 grand. So, if you have I guess you could just use like regular Ioniq 5 motors and that gives you 300 horsepower still. I still feel like I'd be worried that would still balloon the price too much. I guess it'll really come down to what they end up deciding for the next generation Elantra, because that's obviously the basis they have to build off of. But I can't imagine Elantra going up market or getting an electric version. So I'm almost certain it's going to stay cheap, stay gas powered. And I think, you'll see Elantra N probably stick to that as well. There's been talks of hybridization with like, the next generation of the GR86 potentially having the GR Corolla motor with a hybrid thing and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's really not much incentive to go hybrid these days, though. If again the EPA is a thing of the past next year, I don't see any reason to go for the hybrid. So honestly, they'll probably just keep on putting the same motor in if that's the cheap and the easy thing to do and it keeps people happy, because anytime you try to introduce anything new, people get pissed off about it. So like, why do anything new? Just do all the same old stuff, because that's the only way people are going to stay happy, at least as far as the internet's concerned. And if it's the cheap, easy way to do it, just do that. Same old motor, put it into new styling, call it a day, and that'll probably offend the least amount of people. So that's probably the smart thing for Hyundai to do. Austin, thanks so much for gifting a membership as well. Appreciate it. And happy to see Michael D'Amico is able to get that. And we'll see. Still no luck for the real Danny there. But let me see. Yeah, and Grin Shift thinks it'll be the 1.6T hybrid. That could be cool if they can find a way to work a manual, and that'd be fun. And Jordan says, with Google's announcement of the quantum computing chip, will this cause a huge leap in tech, cars, phones, etc., similar to what Apple did with the first iPhone? Has that been a recent thing? I don't know if I've heard about them doing a new quantum chip. I mean, I know quantum chips have been out and other things, but did Google just announce something recently? I'm just out of the loop, I guess. If there is some giant leap in computing, I mean, I guess there's ways where it could maybe help the auto industry, but I think with cars, you don't really need to have super high tech stuff. I think it could help with autonomous stuff potentially, or at least bring down the cost of autonomous stuff if that requires more computing power. Maybe that will help make those things a reality a little bit more. But I think it honestly is more so just again getting these systems better trained. But I don't know, maybe the quantum thing that would be the only thing I would think of is autonomous stuff, would be better. But that's probably the only thing I can think of personally. But I think as far as phones and all that, absolutely, and the quantum thing could give us a huge leap there, even if it's just for the ability of just downsizing chips and making chips. If you only need a little percentage of that quantum computing chip to do the same thing you need to do with a bigger chip these days, it helps you to, have less, bulky tech maybe. But I think we're already at a pretty thin form factor for phones and stuff already that, do you need to go any thinner? But I haven't heard about that. I'll have to check that out. So thanks for the info, Jordan. And Jeremy, thanks so much for being a member for 32 months. He says, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I appreciate that, Jeremy. I hope you have a great Christmas and happy holidays as well. And Yeah, we are about out of time here. There's a couple more minutes. I see Engrin Shift says, I hope wagons make a comeback. Me too. And he says, anything else in the works to replace the Bullet? Not really, aside from, again, possibly a little commuter vehicle just to go to the airport and back, something super cheap. But that's it. Nothing fun or sporty, unfortunately. We'll see how the channel does, but it's just I can't justify anything for myself from a, car standpoint until the views and the earnings get better on the channel. I just need to, stop the bleeding there before I can spend any kind of money. So we'll see what happens. Again, all bets are off for next year. We will see. Could go either way. But it's always, YouTube's in the Wild West. So could be my last year on YouTube next year. Could be the start of the next level of greatness for the channel. We'll see what happens. Austin says, hey, man, I visited a local vintage car collection the other day, and for kicks, ran the inflation calculation on the original MSRPs. Cars were never cheap. Thank you. I wish people, just did the inflation calculator thing. I get that it's really hard to adjust our brains to the new numbers, and the fact that 30 is the new 20, as far as pricing and all this. But yeah, absolutely. It's, there were some times where there were some cheaper cars. Even when you account for inflation, there was a time where there was some, sedans that were, $20,000 or so comparably equipped, as far as, automatic transmission stuff. But just, again, there were such simpler cars. And the fact that you get all this new stuff now for, similar pricing, Corollas are the same price with all these cameras, all this tech, all these convenience features and all this stuff. It is really impressive that they've actually kept cars as cheap as they have. I think I totally agree with you. But yeah, it's just people don't want to hear it. Everyone just wants to complain about how everything's expensive. And if your wages haven't kept up with inflation, I completely can understand. But yeah, it's not the reality if you actually break out the calculator. See, Austin says, yeah, Danny didn't get the membership, unfortunately. So we will see if he has better luck next time. Dave says, I received around 8 gift memberships, then nothing for a few weeks. Maybe it maxes out. Interesting. Maybe there is a limit. I wish YouTube gave us any kind of info that I would love to know. But thanks for sharing your info, at least, Dave. That's interesting to hear. I see Austin's wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays as well. Engrid Shift says, Matt, quick thoughts on those drones. Are they testing new Amazon delivery systems? No, my personal thought, I mentioned this a few minutes ago as well. I'm pretty sure it's military stuff. Any unexplained stuff in the sky is military stuff. If it was foreign stuff, it would have been shot down. If it was stuff that was unauthorized, it would be shot down. That includes Amazon stuff. So to me, it's military, and they had to test it out in the open for whatever reason. And that's, I saw one theory that makes sense. I don't want to repeat stuff because it's not, I don't want to repeat hearsay, but I did see some, a theory online that made a lot of sense to me. That's, I'm pretty certain it's just, the military doesn't like showing their cars. They don't like saying what they're doing. So I'm pretty sure it's just, military stuff, that I wouldn't worry about personally. But TFI says, did someone say super cheap commuter vehicle? Yep. I know what you're thinking, TFI. Mirage. I'm not going to the Mirage personally. My risk tolerance does not jive with the safety ratings of the Mirage, unfortunately. J. Bill says, supposedly the Google new chip can detect other dimensions. Interesting. I'm going to have to read up on this. That sounds fascinating. That's maybe it can bring us time travel or something. We can get out of the 2020s here. Anyway, Nightbreaker, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I'm age 36. With inflation, I'm more like 26, right? Sure. Yeah, we can apply the same logic there. Truck Car Guy says, I'm doing what I can to keep the wagons around. I appreciate you keeping that Magnum on the road. Truck Car Guy, that's awesome. And Engrin Shift says, good looking, good quality, and inexpensive. You can only pick one when buying a car. It's pretty much always been that way. Yeah. And there's engineers have a similar saying where it's like it can be fast, reliable, or cheap, and you can only pick 2 out of the 3, or something like that. But Tactrick says Matt has been a Martian all along. Oh man, trust me, if I had any kind of alien superpowers, I'd be doing much better on YouTube than I am. But Dave says Matt needs a Nissan Leaf. Nissan Leafs, I always thought they were kind of cool, honestly. That would be, if they're not leasing very well. I did check. Lease deals on Nissan Leafs are not good, unfortunately. So yeah, but that will not be a Nissan Leaf if I do decide to impulse buy a cheap commuter EV this week. But we will see. I mean, and for anyone else, that is the last thing I guess I'll leave you guys with. If you are searching for a cheap commuter vehicle, and I mean, the end of the year here, I mean, there are some stupid cheap leases out there. And EVs are great commuters. You know, it's not exciting. It's not, gonna light your hair on fire, but it's cheap to run. And as long as you can plug it in at night at your house, I think it's a great little thing if you can get them for literally like, super cheap money, and insurance is cheap, but, yeah, this is a big if. So we will see, but yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be an interesting week for me as far as whether I decide to pull the trigger on this little commuter vehicle or not. Yeah, stay tuned though. It's going to be, again, last week of the year here. I'm going to send it off with a bang. I'm actually going to be doing a review on the Fiat 500e for Christmas Eve, and going to have a bunch of videos here at the end of the year. And the final live stream, once again, will be this coming Saturday, not Sunday, because I'll be hanging out with friends on Sunday. So Saturday night, the last live stream of the year. Beth may make an appearance, no promises, but there's a potential that she may show up. We talked about potentially. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys can make it. Hope you have a great final week here, pretty much, or great Christmas, great holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. I hope it's a great one for you. And yeah, thanks so much for stopping by here, and I hope you guys have a great gift giving season here. I'm curious if anyone has any fun gifts. We can talk about that next week as well. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.